Are you coming back for dinner tonight? No reply. She sighed wearily. She got up and placed the dishes one by one into the dishwasher. Just as she pressed the start button, a loud bang came from the entrance. The door was kicked open by Julian. He was covered in a strong smell of smoke and alcohol, his suit jacket draped carelessly over his shoulder, his tie askew. What's gotten into you again? Serafina frowned and hurried over. Julian, do you even know what time it is? Why aren't you answering the phone or replying to messages? She said, lowering her voice, trying to restrain her anger. Julian staggered and violently pushed her hand away. Answer the phone? Reply to messages? Who do you think you are? His voice was loud, with the husky and sharp tone specific to drunkenness. Serafina, do you think you're so great now? Serafina's face instantly paled. Great at what? I was just worried something happened to you. She pointed at the clock on the wall. You promised me you'd be home tonight to celebrate Lily's birthday. Today is Lily's 6th birthday. Julian sneered and walked to the center of the living room, kicking over a ceramic vase on the low cabinet. The vase shattered with a clang, and fragments and water splattered everywhere. Birthday? What's so important about a kid's birthday? I've been busy all day, talking about a multi-million-dollar deal, working like a dog, and you bother me for this? He pointed to the shards on the floor, his eyes full of provocation. Stop acting like a virtuous wife, Serafina. If you really cared about me, you'd pour me a cup of hot tea, not check up on me like a debt collector. Serafina took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Can't you pour tea yourself? I'm asking you, what are you going to do about the vase? She pointed at him. You're drunk, acting crazy, turning the house upside down like this. What do you think Lily will see when she wakes up tomorrow morning? Hearing his daughter's name, a brief moment of clarity flashed in Julian's eyes, but it was quickly suppressed by anger and alcohol. Fix it? How am I going to fix it? It's my stuff, I can smash it if I want. What's it to you? He walked up to her, approaching her closely, his alcohol-laced breath hitting her face. Everything in this house, inside and out, wasn't it all bought with my money? What else can you do besides staying home and taking care of a kid? Do you think you can still boss me around like you used to? Serafina's eyes instantly turned red. Julian, sober up. It's not about whether you make money or not. It's about respecting the family. I'm not bossing you around. I just hope you can keep your promises, be a decent husband and father. She stepped back, trying to create distance. Didn't you say you closed a multi-million-dollar deal? Then tell me, how much money are you willing to spend to compensate for the hurt you've caused Lily? Julian's lips curled into a mocking smile. Compensate? Is buying her a several $1,000 Barbie doll enough? Or, taking her to the amusement park tomorrow and letting her have a blast, would that work? He pulled out his wallet and casually drew out a wad of cash, throwing it at Serafina's feet. Take it, buy yourself something, stop dressing like an old woman all day. This is for buying you clothes, okay? Is it enough for a month's expenses? The red bills were scattered on the cold floor, looking particularly glaring. Serafina trembled all over, anger and grievance flooding over her like a tide. She didn't look at the money on the floor, but stared directly at Julian's distorted face. Do you think you can settle everything with money? Do you think I, Serafina, am your family's nanny, a tool for you, Julian, to use? Julian suddenly grabbed her wrist, with astonishing force. You're not a nanny, you're Mrs. Julian. You're my damn private property, my wife. You do what I tell you to do, understand? Serafina felt like the bones in her wrist were about to break, but she didn't struggle, just looked back at him with an extremely calm, yet powerful gaze. Julian, let go. I'm warning you, if you don't let go, I'm calling the police. He was stunned for a moment, as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. Call the police? You dare. Serafina, if you dare call the police over something this small, you just wait to be in the news tomorrow, see how everyone laughs at you. Serafina's voice was even colder. Do you think this is a small matter, the way things are right now? A drunken man breaking into the house late at night, damaging property, and threatening and physically assaulting me. Julian, I've had enough of your unreasonable, self-centered attitude. If you don't let go of me, it won't be as simple as calling the police. In her eyes was an unprecedented determination and decisiveness. Julian was stunned by her gaze and involuntarily released her hand. Serafina immediately pulled her arm back, which was already red and swollen. She looked up, her tone as cold as the rain outside the window. You better sleep in the guest room tonight. Don't go near Lily's room. Tomorrow morning, we'll talk things over properly. Julian looked at her, his expression complex, with both the confusion brought on by alcohol and the rage of being offended. Serafina, don't you regret it? He spat out through gritted teeth. Serafina didn't answer, just turned around, picked up a broom and dustpan, and silently began to clean up the mess on the floor. In the morning, the first ray of sunlight struggled to break through the thick clouds. The rain stopped at 3 in the morning. Serafina woke up early, without making any noise. She went to the living room and meticulously cleaned up the wreckage of the vase with a vacuum cleaner. Even the expensive Persian carpet on the floor, she scrubbed with a special cleaner. The lingering smell of alcohol was driven out completely by opening all the windows. At 8 o'clock sharp, she placed 2 breakfasts on the table. The fried eggs were fried golden brown with lace-like crispy edges. One was prepared for her daughter, although she knew Lily had already gone to school. The other was for Julian, rich and greasy, to suit his usual tastes. She poured herself only a cup of black coffee and sat at the table, waiting calmly. The door to the guest room was pulled open with a creak. Julian walked out. He had changed into a clean set of casual clothes. His face was ashen and his eyes were bloodshot. He pressed his temples with his hand, obviously still suffering from a hangover, and in great pain. He didn't say good morning. He immediately saw the living room, clean as if nothing had happened. You sent Lily to school? He asked hoarsely. Left 5 minutes ago, Serafina said calmly. I told you to wait. I wanted to take her myself. Are you trying to be difficult with me now? I'm not trying to be difficult with you. Serafina picked up her coffee cup and took a small sip. Lily knows what time you came home, she said faintly. Julian's fists clenched tightly. A shattered vase, a stain on the carpet. Are you really going to make a big deal out of something this small? He tried to define last night's events as a small matter, using a condescending tone. Serafina put down her coffee cup, making a crisp sound. We're not talking about a vase. We're talking about you, Julian. Your behavior last night, and your long-standing attitude towards this family and me. Julian pulled out a chair, sat down heavily, picked up a knife and fork and began to cut the fried egg. My attitude? What's wrong with my attitude? I'm busy making money for you outside, so you can live the carefree life you have now. That's my attitude. He shoved the cut eggs into his mouth, chewing with a kind of irritation. Do you know how much alcohol I drank and how many smiles I put on for those multi-million-dollar contracts? When I come home late, you don't comfort me, but interrogate me like a judge. Serafina, have you forgotten who's supporting this family? Serafina looked at him, her eyes devoid of emotion, only a chilling clarity. I haven't forgotten. But I also haven't forgotten what you said when you married me. You said you would respect me, cherish me, and give me a warm home. What you give me now is only chaos, accusations, and arrogance of showering me with money. Julian slammed the knife and fork on the plate, making a shrill sound. Arrogance? It's a fact. Ask yourself, besides spending my money, what substantial contribution have you made to this family? You want to elevate the work a nanny can do to a level of value. Do you think you're worth me changing for? Worth me giving up my social life and business for those ridiculous promises? Serafina laughed, a bitter laugh. I thought love was the greatest contribution. I thought giving you and Lily a stable home, so you could have no worries, was my value. But since you think my value is only equivalent to a nanny, then let's calculate it at market value. She took a document from her bag and pushed it in front of Julian. The document bag was craft paper, with some wrinkles on the edges. This is a lawyer's letter and a draft of the property division agreement, Julian. Julian's movements froze. He stared at the document bag, his eyes changing from anger to shock. Serafina, what are you doing? A lawyer's letter? You're going to divorce me over a broken vase and a drunken comment. He tried to reach for her hand, but Serafina dodged it in time. It's not for the vase, it's for your private property comment last night. I'm not your private property, I'm an independent individual. I've been thinking about this for a long time, It's not a spur-of-the-moment decision. You don't think I'm worthy of being a Mrs. Julian, then I won't be one. Julian stood up abruptly, his body hitting the chair behind him, which fell to the ground. You wouldn't dare. Don't forget, the company was started with the help of your parents. How much do you think you can get with this agreement? Don't be naive, Serafina. Do you think I haven't prepared for you? When you walk out, no one will recognize Serafina. They'll only know you're the woman Julian doesn't want. His voice was full of threats and intimidation, trying to crush her with public opinion. Serafina looked at him calmly, her eyes showing no sign of wavering. Whether I dare or not, you'll soon know. As for the money you earn, you can keep it. My bottom line has never been money, it's dignity. She picked up her bag, stood up, and walked towards the entrance hall. Take a good look at the agreement, Julian. Don't try to threaten me with your dirty tricks, this time I won't back down. Julian took a few steps, stood in the middle of the dining room, watching her back. Where are you going? If you leave now, don't think about coming back. Serafina stopped at the door, without turning back. I'm taking Lily to a quiet place, to give her a childhood without screams and alcohol. As for here, enjoy the home you bought with money. She opened the door, and the cold morning air with dew blew in. Then, the door closed softly behind her. Julian stood there in a daze. The fried eggs on the table were cold, and the craft paper document looked extremely heavy. He slowly walked back, picked up the document bag, and opened it with trembling hands. Inside, besides the lawyer's letter, was a drawing by his daughter Lily. In the drawing there was him, Serafina, and Lily, holding hands, but his figure was painted black. Julian's hand tightly gripped the blackened family drawing. The paper made a slight, rustling sound between his fingers. He finally finished reading the cold property division agreement. On the document, Serafina's requests were simple, not demanding huge sums of cash. She only asked to obtain full custody of her daughter, and a small apartment in the city center as a residence for the mother and daughter. This apartment was purchased by Serafina's parents before the marriage, and Julian's name was written on it as a wedding room. Julian threw the document heavily on the table. He took out his phone, his fingers trembling as he dialed Serafina's number. Sorry, the user you dialed is powered off. The cold mechanical female voice was like a bucket of cold water poured over his head. He immediately contacted the company's top legal counsel. Half an hour later, his exclusive lawyer, Arthur, hurried to his home. Arthur wore gold-rimmed glasses and looked serious. Mr. Julian, this agreement seems simple, but it's actually carefully calculated. She obviously found a high-level advisor. What high-level advisor? She's a housewife. What big lawyer does she know? Julian rubbed his hair irritably. Her request is a typical minimum limit strategy, to avoid being accused of being greedy for property. Arthur pushed up his glasses. Once she uses your violent behavior last night as evidence, your chances of winning Lily's custody will be very small. You must take action immediately to regain the initiative. Julian took a deep breath, his eyes filled with calculation. Doesn't she want the small apartment? Give it to her. Custody? She's dreaming. Mr. Arthur, immediately draft a counterclaim. Say that Serafina is mentally unstable, left home without permission, and attempted to take the daughter away, and that I am the qualified father. I want to use the fastest speed to have the court intervene and bring Lily back. Arthur nodded slightly. Understood, Mr. Julian. In addition, I want to launch a public opinion offensive. A sinister smile appeared on the corner of Julian's mouth. Doesn't Serafina like to be aloof? I'm going to make her unable to hold her head up in the circle. He picked up his phone and contacted the head of the company's public relations department. Prepare a statement for me immediately and release it in an anonymous way. The content should emphasize the difficulties and hard work of me as a successful entrepreneur. It's important to highlight the negative image of the wife, not being considerate, being greedy and vain, and attempting to abscond with company assets. The public relations director dared not ask more and immediately agreed. The statement was quickly carefully packaged and placed in several private groups in the business and celebrity circles. In just 1 hour, the gossip spread rapidly. I heard that Mr. Julian's wife is going to run away, taking the child and dividing the company's assets. Hey, that's how women are. They get bad as soon as they have money. They don't know how to be grateful. Mr. Julian is really working hard, fighting for the family, and he has to be tortured by this kind of unreasonable woman. Various unpleasant discussions began to spread like a virus. Although Serafina's phone was turned off, her friends and people in the circle quickly found her best friend Vivian. Vivian sat in a cafe, angrily looking at the chat history on her phone. In front of her, Serafina quietly sipped her lemonade. Lily was playing in the children's area upstairs, unaware of what was happening. Serafina, did you see this? Julian, that bastard. He's actually spreading rumors that you're after money. Vivian's hands trembled with anger. Serafina put down her cup, her eyes as calm as if she were watching someone else's story. Expected. Julian has always been like this, using money and power to try to control everything, including public opinion. He always thinks that as long as he makes me look bad enough, his actions will be justified. Vivian looked at her worriedly. What are you going to do? This is very unfavorable for you. You shouldn't be silent in this war of public opinion. Serafina smiled softly. Do I need to be silent? Vivian, I have evidence of his infidelity and recordings of his violence under the influence of alcohol. Vivian's eyes widened suddenly. You. When did you do this? From the first time he laid his hands on me, using denigration to elevate himself. Serafina looked out the window. I knew this day would come. I was just waiting for the right opportunity. I won't use those dirty pieces of evidence to trade for sympathy and money, but they are my trump cards. Mr. Arthur will contact you soon, Serafina. How are you going to fight back? Vivian asked. Fight back? Serafina picked up her phone and opened a social media account that she rarely used. She didn't post any accusations against Julian. She just posted a picture of Lily's birthday cake that she made herself, next to a blank invitation card. She added a simple line of text. May all children grow up in a loving environment. Happy birthday, baby. This photo was like a stone thrown into a calm lake. No accusations, no curses, just a deep love and regret for her daughter. It stood in stark contrast to the greedy image in Julian's public relations articles. Soon, some friends who knew Serafina left messages below. Serafina, I know you're not that kind of person. I hope you and Lily are doing well. It's your child's birthday, and the father isn't even there. Is it worth it? Public opinion began to show a subtle reversal. Julian saw Serafina's post and slammed his phone on the table in anger. This woman. She's actually using family affection to kidnap public opinion. Arthur, immediately prepare a legal document for me, prohibiting her from posting any information related to the family again. Arthur looked at the warm and sad photo of the cake and pushed up his glasses. Mr. Julian, I must remind you she didn't name names. It's difficult to restrict her legally. Moreover, at this time any gagging of the wife will be seen by the public as a threat and control. Julian's face flushed. He felt himself gradually losing control. He didn't expect this usually docile wife to erupt with such a calm and powerful counterattack. Julian didn't sleep well for 3 days in a row. He was restless and kept smoking. Unfavorable rumors about his private life also began to circulate within the company. Several important partners began to postpone meetings for various reasons. He clearly knew that Serafina's seemingly gentle and harmless cake photo had a greater impact than him smashing 100 vases. Mr. Arthur, I must see her before the trial. Julian sat behind his huge desk, his tone full of command. Arthur looked slightly tired. Mr. Julian, according to my advice, you should not contact her privately. Your emotions are very unstable right now. Any excessive words may become unfavorable evidence. Stop talking nonsense. I want to talk to her face to face and have her withdraw the agreement. Otherwise, I guarantee that she will be left with nothing. I will not let her leave my control with Lily. In the end, Arthur couldn't dissuade him and arranged a tripartite meeting. The meeting place was chosen in a private tea house room. Serafina arrived 5 minutes early. She was wearing a beige cashmere coat, simple and elegant. She ordered a pot of light pu'er tea for herself. Her expression was calm, as if she was just attending an ordinary business meeting. Julian, accompanied by Arthur, pushed open the door and entered. As soon as he saw Serafina, his eyes were filled with suppressed anger and a hint of unnoticed panic. Serafina, I really can't see through you more and more. Julian didn't sit down, he stood directly opposite Serafina. For the sake of a moment of pride, are you disregarding Lily's future? Serafina raised her eyes, her gaze clear and firm. I care more about my daughter's future than anyone else. I'm here out of consideration for our past relationship, to give you one last chance. She pointed to another document on the table. Sign this settlement agreement. I don't need you to pay extra alimony. I only ask for Lily's custody. You keep all the shares and all the real estate of the company. Julian glanced at Arthur, who gave him a subtle, don't be impulsive look. He forcibly suppressed his anger, pulled out a chair, and sat down heavily. Serafina, don't pretend to be noble. Do you think I'll let you go just because you pretend you don't love money? The company has your parents' hard work from back then. Do you really think you can get away clean? I'm telling you, if you dare to sign, I dare to reclaim all the money your parents invested in my company back then in the name of loan. The air instantly froze. Serafina's expression finally changed, but it wasn't fear but extreme coldness. Julian, you're so despicable. My parents have been dead for 5 years, and you actually want to use their belongings to threaten me? Do you think I don't have evidence to prove that those were investments, not loans? She didn't raise her voice, but every word pierced him like an icicle. Arthur immediately interrupted. Mr. Julian, please watch your words. Mrs. Julian, we are here today to discuss a settlement. I hope you will not be swayed by emotions. Serafina looked at Arthur, her eyes with a hint of contempt. Mr. Arthur, you are a professional legal person. Please tell your client, what will be the consequences in court for using the property of deceased relatives as a threat? This will only turn him from a controversial husband into a defendant with personality defects. Julian felt a lump in his throat. He couldn't refute. He didn't expect Serafina to know the law so well, and to calmly seize his weakness. I'll give you one last chance. Serafina pushed a document towards him. This settlement agreement ensures that your property is not damaged, and also protects your reputation from more serious attacks. Otherwise, on the day of the trial, I will provide all the evidence of your drunk driving, domestic violence, and your improper investment using company funds. Julian's pupils shrank suddenly. Improper investment? Serafina, what nonsense are you talking about? Those are all my personal investments. They have nothing to do with the company. You can't possibly have any evidence. You're bluffing me. Serafina picked up the teacup and gently blew away the heat. Do you think that I, a housewife, really know nothing about your business? Don't forget, your company was built up by my parents back then. Do you think those shady transaction records of yours can really be hidden without leaving a trace? She took out a small USB flash drive from her purse. The USB flash drive was red and had a cute bear pendant attached. Serafina placed it on the table, gently pushing it towards Julian. Guess what's recorded in this? Julian's face instantly turned pale. He reached out, wanting to grab the USB drive, but his hand hovered in midair. He remembered the smart home system Serafina had installed at home, which he had never bothered with because he found it troublesome. He remembered all the complaints and plans he often mumbled to himself in the study, while facing the computer. He suddenly realized that this woman he thought he kept caged had already laid a trap throughout the house. Serafina didn't say anything more. She stood up and smoothed the hem of her coat. If you decide to sign, please have Mr. Arthur contact my lawyer. If you decide to continue fighting, then see you in court. She walked towards the door, her steps firm and composed. Julian jumped up. You stop right there. You think you can scare me with the USB drive? You crazy woman. All you want is more money, isn't it? Fine. I'll give it to you. I'll give you another 50 million. He tried to use money to break down her defenses again. Serafina didn't turn back. She just casually dropped a sentence. Keep your 50 million to buy yourself some peace and quiet. The door closed gently. Only Julian and Arthur remained in the private room. Julian slumped back into his chair, his eyes fixed on the small red USB drive on the table. Julian stared unblinkingly at the red USB drive on the table. That small object was like an unexploded bomb. Arthur broke the silence. He pushed up his glasses and carefully picked up the USB drive. Mr. Julian, I don't think it's wise for us to take any more confrontational actions now. Mrs. Julian's attitude is very firm, and the cards she holds may far exceed our estimates. Julian suddenly raised his head, his eyes filled with scarlet bloodshot lines. What are you doing touching it? Who allowed you to touch it? My things are none of your business, you outsider. He snatched the USB drive, clutching it tightly in his hand, as if protecting a deadly secret. What does she have? Tell me, what could a woman possibly know? Arthur sighed, his tone professional and helpless. Mrs. Julian is very smart. She didn't directly use these evidence, but used them to intimidate you. She obviously doesn't want to ruin everything for you. She just wants freedom and her daughter. This proves that she still has a bottom line. You shouldn't continue to challenge her bottom line. Julian felt dizzy, and he staggered to the window. Freedom? She's always been free. She has no worries about food or clothing here. She gets whatever she wants. Isn't that the best life? Why can't she be satisfied? Why does she have to ruin me like this? Arthur walked up behind him, his voice lowered. Mr. Julian, if you really love Lily, the best thing to do now is to accept the settlement. Once the contents of that USB drive are made public, it will affect not only your property, but also your reputation and Lily's future. Your company's stock has already started to fluctuate because of those rumors. Julian whirled around, glaring at Arthur angrily. Are you threatening me? Are you teaching me how to do things? You lawyer who depends on me for a living. Arthur didn't back down, his tone calm and firm. I'm fulfilling my professional obligations, Mr. Julian. I suggest you immediately copy the contents of the USB drive to me so I can assess the risks. Otherwise, if Mrs. Julian delivers it to the court first, we will be completely passive. Julian hesitated. His reason was fiercely fighting his pride. In the end, his curiosity about the red USB drive won out. He returned to the table, trembling, and plugged the USB drive into his laptop. On the screen, a folder popped up, named very simply, Truth. Julian's fingers hovered over the keyboard for a few seconds, then suddenly double-clicked to open it. Inside were hundreds of encrypted financial statements, email screenshots, and recordings. He randomly clicked on a recording. In the recording, it was a conversation he had after drinking with a partner about how to avoid taxes and transfer a suspicious asset. His voice was clearly audible, full of recklessness after intoxication. Julian's face turned deathly gray. This wasn't just evidence for a divorce case, it was evidence that could land him in prison. He looked sharply at Arthur. This is all fabricated, he weakly protested. Arthur just looked at him silently, without speaking. Julian clicked on another folder, which contained records of his failed secret investment 2 years ago. Serafina not only recorded the specific amount of the investment, but even the details of how he used his position to embezzle company funds to cover the whole were marked clearly. Julian finally understood that Serafina was far from the naive and sweet woman, who only knew how to arrange flowers and take care of children that he imagined. She had been lurking by his side for many years, quietly observing him, collecting the secrets he thought he had. She knew it all along. Julian murmured to himself. She knew all along that I did these things, but she never said anything. She just watched me silently, waiting for me to walk into the abyss step by step. Arthur didn't respond, but motioned for him to continue viewing. Finally, he saw a recording. It was a recording of him yelling at Lily last week when he got home, blaming her for breaking his tablet. Lily's soft cries and his roar formed a piercing contrast. You idiot! Do you know how much this costs? All you know is how to cry. Get back to your room. Hearing himself say such things to his daughter, Julian's heart clenched sharply. He finally understood that Serafina's bottom line was her daughter. These unreasonable behaviors of his had completely pierced through her protective shell as a mother. He slumped back in his chair, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Mr. Arthur, what should we do now? His voice had completely lost its previous arrogance. Now we immediately accept Mrs. Julian's settlement proposal, Arthur said decisively. Immediately stop all public opinion attacks and release a signal of peaceful separation to the outside world. We must concede on Lily's custody. Mr. Julian, you should be grateful that Mrs. Julian doesn't want to see you behind bars. She just wants to leave quietly. You must sign now, otherwise, we will be facing a criminal case, not a divorce lawsuit. Julian picked up the settlement agreement on the table, his hand trembling violently. The words on the agreement were no longer a provocation, but a lifeline. He picked up the pen and looked at Serafina's name. Once, that name represented his wife, his dignity. Now that name represented his end, and his redemption. Julian's fingers gripped the pen tightly. The tip of the pen hovered over the signature line of the settlement agreement for a full minute. He could hear his heart beating violently, like drumbeats, striking his already chaotic nerves. Arthur stood quietly to the side, not urging him, but the pressure was overwhelming. He knew that every pause of Julian's was weighing his pride and future freedom. Finally, Julian closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He slammed the pen down and heavily signed his name on the document. Julian. The handwriting was loud and powerful, but with a hint of helplessness and surrender. After signing, he threw the pen on the table, as if unloading 1,000 pounds. Contact Serafina's lawyer immediately. His voice was hoarse and tired. Tell them I accept the settlement, all conditions, do as they say. Arthur immediately picked up his phone, walked to the corner of the private room, and began to make contact. Julian looked at the agreement on the table that had already come into effect. He would lose custody of his daughter, lose the premarital property he nominally owned. But he saved the company, saved his wealth, and most importantly his freedom. He felt no joy of victory, only a huge emptiness, as if he had been hollowed out. 10 minutes later, Arthur returned. Mr. Julian, Mrs. Julian's lawyer requests that you immediately cooperate in completing the property transfer issue. At the same time, to prevent you from going back on your word, they require you to make a notarized commitment regarding Lily's custody. Julian waved his hand irritably. Do it all. Give her whatever she wants, just as long as she stops tormenting me. Just then his phone rang. A strange number was displayed on the screen. Julian hesitated for a moment and answered the phone. Hello. His voice was tinged with wariness. From the other end of the phone came Serafina's cold and calm voice. Julian, you signed very good. This is the last conversation we will have as husband and wife. Julian gripped the phone tightly. Where are you now? I want to see Lily. Lily is fine. She asked why you haven't come home. Serafina's voice had no emotional fluctuations. I told her that Dad is very busy with work recently and needs to go on a business trip for a while. She believed it because you have always been very busy. Julian's heart was stabbed hard by those words. Tell me, how exactly did you get that evidence? He lowered his voice, his tone tinged with resentment. When did you start planning all this? Serafina was silent for a moment. Her breathing could be clearly heard in the tea-house private room. Do you remember 3 years ago, when you gave me that brooch with a miniature camera embedded in it? Julian was stunned. Of course he remembered. He had bought it for her to wear on important occasions to guard against his business competitors. At the time he had proudly praised his own ingenuity. You've been using it? He asked in disbelief. Not just it. Serafina's voice carried a hint of mockery. All your negligence, all your self-righteousness were my helpers. You thought I was just your appendage and never took me seriously. So, what you said when you were drunk, your unscrupulous behavior, you never guarded against me. Julian felt a chill run from his spine to the top of his head. He realized that he had personally given the listening device and camera to his enemy. You've been acting. You've been pretending to be stupid, he roared. You meticulously planned all this to get revenge on me. Serafina's voice was still calm, as if stating a fact. I wasn't acting, Julian. I was just protecting myself, protecting my daughter. I once truly loved you and wanted to live a good life with you. But you used your excess and indifference to personally kill all my love and expectations. When I realized that being with you, Lily would forever live in fear and insecurity, I had to leave. Her words, like knives, cut into his heart, one after another. What exactly do you want? Besides what's on the agreement, do you have any other purpose? He asked desperately. Haven't you always said that money can buy everything? Serafina laughed softly. The laughter was short, carrying a sense of relief. What I want now is for you to never appear in our lives again. Don't ever try to use your money and power to interfere with Lily's upbringing. If you dare to violate the agreement, I will immediately make everything on that USB drive public. Don't think I wouldn't dare. Julian was silent. He felt the unquestionable determination in her words. He knew she really could do it. You win. He could only squeeze these 3 words out from between his teeth. No, Julian. Serafina's voice sounded again. We've just finally returned to where we should each be. The phone was hung up. Julian held the phone for a long time without putting it down. He looked at the prosperous urban landscape outside the window, and felt like a king who had been stripped of his armor. He had saved his kingdom, but he had forever lost his family.